name is Roger Stebbins. I'm a 100% disabled veteran, U.S. Army. And I do volunteer work at the VA hospital. I do play music at some recovery centers. And I do some art and whatever I can do to keep me busy. So I started this music meeting, the creative sharing meeting, in July 4th, 1994. And it was just kind of a whim thing. I just figured, why not? It's been going on for quite a while. 94, that's, it's been over 20 years, and people have been coming there and having just really good times. For me, that's the key for me, is to help people calm down from a stressful day, because life is stressful. That's just the way it is.
Happy or sad, we all felt that way.
My name is Jill Hennessy Wyndham, and I am a musician, a singer, and I am also an elementary school teacher. What led me to get into music was the fact that I feel like I had to, because I come from a long line of musical entertainers on my mom's side of the family, and my brothers were also musicians, and I guess I started singing before I started speaking. My mom had been sick my whole life with rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. My mom was getting sicker and sicker in my preteen and teenage years, and she finally passed away when I was 18, and that was a big tornado in my life. I started trying to cope by using alcohol, and I became an alcoholic almost immediately. I decided to move out to California because I wanted to pursue singing. I wanted to be in bands, and my brothers were living out here. They're older, and both of them were professional musicians, so they already had a place to live. I really started drinking like crazy. So in 1984, I was in a band, and the band was called Slingshot, and we had this gig. It was my brother's birthday. It was January 28th, 1984, and it was a place called Carlos O'Brien's in Riverside, and it was a Saturday night, and it was already packed. It was 9 o'clock. It was the first song of the night, and we had a sign. It was a 60 pound neon sign called Slingshot, and it was about 4 feet long, very, very heavy, and it was hanging above us on some hooks. And so it was the first song of the night, and the line I was singing was, "There's nights you wanna yell for help." And right then, on the right hook broke from the ceiling, and the Slingshot sign fell down and like a guillotine slingshot my head on stage, cracked my skull open on stage, and did other spinal damage. They rushed me to the hospital, and they stitched up my head. I only got medicinal treatment for like the pain, and it gave me vertigo off of my brainstem, and I never got physical therapy done on it, and then like the pain kind of went away, and then I just went on with my life.
I was thinking back on my childhood and a lot of different things I've been through and stuff, and because that's what we do with 12-step recovery. We take a look at our lives and try and make it better, realize where we stepped off. And my father was a brutal drunk, and my mother had a lot of mental illness, and so there's a bad combination there, and many times they would have fights and stuff, and he ended up hitting her and stuff and knocking her down. I think one of the first times I remember him knocking her down, getting a really bad fight, and the ambulance came and took her away, and I thought she was dead. And I realized that I had been escaping reality for a very long time. And one of the stories I remember, at the time when I was a kid in the 60s, with this glue that we had for the models, you took the cap off and it just filled the room with fumes, and that just made me feel so good to sniff the glue. And I didn't know that until I was a few years sober, and looked back and went, wow, I've been changing my life with drugs and alcohol for a very long time, escaping all the pain and misery, and then never realizing that drugs and alcohol caused me a ton of problems also. So one night, I'm at my home, and my friends show up like they'd done many times, and they were going to ask me to go out and party, and I decided not to, and so they left. And then the next morning when I woke up, I had some other friends come over, and they told me that my best friend was killed. I went out and got drunk. That's kind of what I did. And so as a result of that, it took me a while before I got my head clear to really think about what was going on with my life. So I joined the United States Army, and I did the best I could, and I managed to make it through the military. Did all my time and got out with an honorable discharge.
Well, my name's Benjamin. I'm in a musical duo with Tracy. We call ourselves Sparky and the Ancient Mariner.
Scratching at my door. I cut my hair to break my back.
I was born in Southern California. We moved around a lot when I was little. My dad was accepted to Harvard. My parents were real young. My mom was 17 and I think he was 19.
We used to go to this pizza place called Giuseppe's downtown Colorado Springs, and we'd sit on, there's two sides. There was a swinging door bar side, and then there was the kiddie side where we ate and sat, and I used to see this Miller sign, and there was a neon sign, and the bottle would pour the beer into the glass, and the glass would fill up, and then it would empty, and the bottle would fill it up again. And I used to think, I bet you I could keep up with that neon sign if I ever had a chance to drink beer. And a year or so later, when I snuck into that bar, that's how I drank. I wanted to keep up with that sign, and I not only kept up with it, but I beat it.
My parents got divorced when I was 5. My mom, when we left Boston, I think we went up to Canada for a while, and then we came out here to Southern California because her family was here.
And the gymnastics coach came in and said, you need to come out for the gymnastics team. And I'd never heard of that, but I started doing gymnastics, and I guess I was a natural at it because it got me through college, and it was a good start to that. I got offered, I won a couple of state meets, and I was recruited by a few different colleges, and I accepted one down to Oklahoma University.
And I tried out for the volleyball team. The minimum age, I think, was 14, and I was 13. And I got myself down the hallway and heard some music off in a corridor and went in there and auditioned for a musical, and that's kind of how I found my way into musical theater.
So I was, I don't know, almost a year sober, I think, somewhere in that area, and my life was confusing because being sober was not what I'm used to. And I remember I went to a meeting, and a guy was looking at me, and he knew me for a little while, and he said, well, maybe you need like a hobby or something. And I was like, okay. So he handed me a guitar. I had never played guitar before, so I was like, sure, why not? I need something else to do. And I used to be a pretty good singer when I was a kid, and so I started playing guitar as a form of both anger management and a little bit of relief, because it did take me out of my head for a while, and that was a good thing for me.
A few months after I got sober, a friend of mine said, well, you're a guitar player. They have this meeting that they call a creative sharing meeting, and it's just all about music. And so I went, because music just makes you feel good, It made me feel like, well, because I'm not drinking anymore doesn't mean I have to be a wallflower, It looks like I could still maybe do something. And before you know it, I was writing these little 12-step program ditties, and they were horrible songs, but they came from me, and I knew what they meant, and the people around me knew what they meant, and it was cool.
I stood up and sang Amazing Grace because it was the one song I could think of that I thought maybe I could actually sing, and I thought it would be neat to do that for my grandfather. So I had, after that though, and it was shaky voice. I call it shaky voice, when you're really nervous and you're trying to sing. And so I was bolting out of there, and this one gal called me over and explained that Benjamin might be looking for somebody to sing with. Somehow, I think what happened was I showed up at the meeting the following week, and Benjamin was there, and I think he gave me his number.
We worked on a song called Comfort by My Side,
Yeah.
which is one of my early writes, and worked out really nicely. When I was the boat captain, you know, I worked with a lot of young people for those years, and working their way through school or whatever, and they were in and out and in and out, and I was the ancient mariner, and I stayed that way after I left the boats. And when I first met Tracy and started singing with her, I just saw her as kind of a spark, and I started calling her Sparky. She knew what I wanted, and I knew what she wanted and what was going to do, and it's been a nice road the last couple of years.
I decided to stop drinking once I started going to church. I knew that my life was going downhill, and I was invited by my brother Pat to this church in Costa Mesa, and the choir came out and they sang, and that was a pivotal moment because the peace that came upon me was overwhelming, and that was the beginning of a huge journey of change for me. In the 90s, I started feeling a lot of pain, and I just kind of plugged through and would feel it. Took a lot, like knives, little bone shards of bone, and at 3 of the 7 discs up there, and they were impaling my spinal cord. So I had to get an emergency triple disc fusion with hardware put in, and they had to go in through the front. They go in through the front. It's easier to go in through the front, and they place your voice box and your esophagus and everything to the side, and they go in and they repair. So I have quite a big scar here, and what had happened is the surgeon said, I've got bad news and good news. The good news is you have really strong neck muscles. He says the bad news is I had to wrangle to get through that muscle, and I think I traumatized some of your vocal cords. And so I was really at a very surrendered place while I was healing. And what was really difficult for me was not being able to sing just like to the radio. It wasn't even about performing. It was about just the joy of singing. And so I had a really scratchy speaking voice. We didn't know if my singing voice would come back, and I remember being in a lot of prayer during that time.
You know, when my mom died when I was about 3 years sober, and I went back to Colorado to her funeral, and I think I cried for a couple of days, and I think I cried for all those people that I didn't mourn for, you know, all those years that I just went and drank. And not just for Mom, but that's, you know, some guys that I know real closely in the program back then were telling me that's probably what happened because you suppressed all that, and now it was really a good, you know, good feeling to be able to do that and release some of that, whatever it was.
So I was sober for about a year and a half, and then my sister committed suicide. I had no solution to that. My solution to that was to get drunk again, and because I knew that took away the pain. I had absolutely no clue how to deal with my sister's death. So drugs and alcohol was a big solution for a long time. And it led to me more bad places, back up in jail again, arrested for drunk driving again, assault and batteries. And so my friends helped me, you know, build me up because a lot of people knew what was going on with me. And then and a friend of mine moved out to California. He offered me to come out and live with him. I ended up going to back to AA for some, you know, 12-step program and some meetings. And then someone told me about a music meeting. And so I got hooked on it. And music has always been a real motivator in my life. And I believe that it motivates a lot of people. It helps calm us down and, and actually enjoy life a little bit. I didn't go for a talent show. I wasn't trying to be a rock star. I just wanted to share my music and share my experience with people. And then I came up with a slogan, healing through music, freedom to express, which was part of a poetry/art project I was working on. And then that's now kind of been like a part of my life.
I had been, having a pitcher of beer before a meet. And I did this without anyone knowing, but after the first time I really chugged me a pitcher of beer, I kind of thought, well, this is pretty cool. I feel real loose.
And I got to go to a really nice school in Saratoga Springs, and they had a great dance department, so I was pretty excited about that.
I didn't get drunk or totally stoned, but I was, I definitely took the edge off before meets. I just started really overdoing it with drugs and alcohol at that point, and sloughing it going to practice. The next thing you know, I lost my scholarship.
I think what I loved about that whole creative outlet was that, all those things that go on inside you in adolescence that you don't necessarily know how to express, you can do that through a part or through music, and share that with the world in a way that, you can very often help somebody or change somebody.
I was in the military for 4 years. And I wanted to leave from the day I got in, from the day of boot camp. Man, it was horrible. It was just, it was right out of a Twilight Zone episode to me. I mean, you just get knocked around and I took to it. I acquiesced and I became the Marine that they wanted me to be.
I had a bout with anorexia. It happens a lot with dancers because you spend your whole day in the mirror looking at your body, and after a while I think sometimes you lose your perspective of what's thin and what's normal.
It was just like, it's okay to do drugs and it's okay to do alcohol, and the mess sergeant would give me white crosses, because mess duty was horrible. It was like 3 in the morning to 7 at night, so they give us whites, and you just speed through the day. And I thought, well, this is going to be a good tour, because everyone's scared when you're in a conflict or a war or however you want to put it. When you're a kid, you're scared.
I was in dance class, and I remember one day distinctly, falling out of a turn because my balance was wonky, and one of the girls kind of jokingly said, "Well, maybe you're pregnant." And I laughed, because I thought, well, that's impossible. Well, there was this one occasion on New Year's Eve, and so then I went and got tested, and I was, I think, almost 4 months along. I didn't realize I was pregnant, because when you train really hard, and also when you're battling something like, an eating disorder, you don't always have normal menstrual cycles. And sometimes they go away for a while and then they come back, so it just didn't even occur to me that I might be pregnant.
In the Marine Corps, I met a gal who, at a party, and she had asked me I had asked her out on a date, and we went out on a date, and she started crying and said, "I'm pregnant." And I said, "Wow, it wasn't mine, we just met each other." And she wasn't sure whose the baby was, and she was crying, "I'll never be able to get through with my parents." And I said, "Well, why don't you just get married? Let's get married, and the Marine Corps will give me money, and we'll live off base, and maybe we'll grow to like each other and raise a kid, and it'll be cool." That's how I got married the first time.
I was drinking all the time, and I lost my marriage, and that, of course, was, all these things started gnawing at me. And I remember there were times where I just couldn't stand the way that I felt, and so drinking to make it go away, to get rid of anxiety, was absolutely essential.
So with learning music and running into musicians, I've been to a lot of open mics, a lot of concerts, a lot of bars where they enjoy music and stuff. And so at one point I decided, why not take this music meeting to some of these places? So as a result of that, I went to this place called the Beach Hut, and a little deli place, and I asked the guy what he thought about what I had. I had a bunch of musicians, and I wanted to bring them to the outside venue. As a result of that, he liked the idea, and then he brought some people in, and we started doing the Beach Hut, and we do it about 2 times a month now, and then sometimes I play there, you know, all by myself, and then other times there's open mics that happen there. So in October of 2010, October 2010, I was homeless. I had lost everything. I was, sober still. So I went back to the VA, and they decided that they did some testing on me, and they were like, "Oh my God, there's some problems here." So they diagnosed me with PTSD. They did an MRI, and they find out that my brain is injured. I have a bruised part of my brain, so part of my brain's gone. And music just has a way of calming me down, and it always has done. And then now with music, when I play it, it calms me down a lot. It's like a form of meditation now. I'm very grateful to my higher power that I was able to pick up guitar, because it actually helped me connect my brain again.
Definitely by 2005, 2006, it was hugely. I was an alcoholic. I remember watching the clock and thinking, okay, I'll wait till 3 o'clock before I have anything to drink. Eventually, it was, I'll wait till 12.
There's no heroes. There's just people that are less scared.
February of 2014, I was just at that point where I had to, I was brought to my knees. I couldn't, I wasn't functioning well anymore. Life had just taken one too many bad turns, and it was time to stop. And somebody that I love dearly sat me down and made me aware of that. I needed somewhere to go, and I found a meeting in Long Beach, and it was a good meeting. I remember being shaky with the coffee cup, because there's no alcohol.
I don't know what it was, maybe counseling, maybe I'm okay, you're okay, all that stuff. And it wasn't, it was a 12-step program.
You kind of feel like when you give up alcohol, like you gave up your best friend, if you're an alcoholic.
When there's no more running away, and there's no more alcohol, or no more pills, or no more drugs, or no more whatever you're doing, there's other things you have to do. And other than getting in bed and pulling the covers over your head, you got to get up and do something. And so that's what we start doing.
God, I don't care if I don't care if I ever sing on stage or for people again ever. Please just restore my voice so I can just sing for you. That's really actually where I got to. One day I was it was about 10 months after the surgery. I couldn't even hit the G chord, the G note above middle C, which it's not a hard note to hit for a female singer. And I was having a kind of depressing moment, and I have a lucky number. It's 333, and I was seeing it everywhere. And I was waking up in the middle of the night at 333, and it was just really this uncanny number that was popping up. And so my friend said I would ask God to reveal through 33rd chapter, 3rd verse, or 3rd chapter, 33rd verse. So I went to the book of Psalms and went to 33:3, and it said, "Sing to him a new song, play skillfully, and shout for joy." And in that moment, that was a significant moment for me, God showing me that scripture, because that told me my voice was going to come back. And I believed it. And about 2 weeks later, I was able to sing again.
You gotta hold
And so music for me, the reason I'm connected with it now is that it's a realization that it helped me. And as a result of it helping me, it can help other people. And I have now watched it help other people.
In my life, I wouldn't even want to be here if there wasn't music. Because I have to feel and hear music. Otherwise, it'd be God, just take me home. That's how important and powerful it is in my life.
Music has just been a tremendous part of our recovery and in our ability to stay away from that old stuff that we used to do back in those days.
So if there's anybody out there watching this documentary and you're struggling with PTSD, drug addiction, whatever, get connected to people. It's an amazing thing when you get connected to people because and get help. The VA has help for you. There's also AA meetings all over the place to help with your addictions. There's now like 12-step programs for almost everything. I mean, you know, you go to your local church, they have a whole bunch of different programs for people. I think the biggest part for me about being part of this 12-step program and this music meeting is that I get connected with other people. And we feed off of each other's energy, and we can actually grow from that. I've been, lost and alone through my drug addiction and a lot of other stuff, and then finally getting connected here and getting the help I need to help me get better has made my life 1,000 times better.